It's the first time in Singapore that the blogging community has come together for a cause in public. I don't recall an instance where bloggers came together like that. We are called keyboard warriors, but today we are here standing before you. The reason why we are here today is very simple. I think the past 10 to 11 days, you read the news, you know what happened. The Media Development Authority, the Tuesday before last, suddenly sprung new regulations, internet regulations on Singaporeans. On Tuesday they announced the regulations. On Wednesday it was gazetted as law, and on Saturday the law took effect, and all of us were blurred like sotong. We didn't really know what was going on, and all of us had so many questions, and we were asking those questions, and we found very little answers. But here's the thing, despite that, it is the law now, and all of us have to live under it. And that is the reason why we are here today. Our reason, our aim, our goal is very simple. It is simply to ask the government to withdraw the MDA internet regulations that they announced 11 days ago. But what are these regulations? Briefly, they are worded so vague, so broad, so ambiguous that anyone and everyone can fall under these rules. In other words, the regulations are pao ka liao, okay? Because they say if you publish a news article once a week for 2 months and attract 50,000 unique visitors a month, you will be required to register. That means apply for a license and post a $50,000 performance bond. I have been a blogger for 7 years. Me and 3 other of my friends started the Online Citizen in 2006. And in all those years, I never had more than a few $100s of donations. $50,000 is absurd, and it will kill us. And I feel very personally interested, shall we say, about this, because I believe that citizen journalism has a place in Singapore. Don't you agree? Especially when we have a mainstream media. There's only 2 companies, MediaCorp and SPH, that's under Temasek Holdings and run by the government. And if you read some books, they even tell you that the government appoints the editors of these newspapers and these broadcasting companies. And that's why citizen journalism has a place in Singapore, and it should be so. Now, failure to comply may result in heavy penalties for us. For example, the $50,000 bond can be forfeited, and you can have a $200,000 fine and or a 3-year jail term under the Broadcasting Act. So, after the outcry since the announcement, the government suddenly tried to explain the regulations, right? So we have Minister Yaakob Ibrahim, we have Minister Tan Chuan Jin, we have Minister of State Indrani Raja, we have MP Baey Yam Keng, all trying to explain the regulations after it has been gazetted as law. Do you think that such a thing is fair? The main thing here is this. I know there are many questions and many issues which the speakers today will highlight. But I would like to highlight to you one thing about the statement, the first and original statement that MDA released. It's a very nicely crafted statement. I'm not really interested in what is in the statement itself. I'm interested in that footnote that followed that statement. That statement had one footnote, and that is very important. As you all know, right? If you receive anything from the government, if you receive any letter from the government, the most important thing to read is the fine print. So here's the fine print that the MDA attached with its statement. This footnote explains what news is. What is news? Because the regulations, the ministers are saying, oh, it doesn't affect everyone. It only affects those that are news sites, sites that report news. So what is news to the MDA? This is what the MDA says in its own statement. A Singapore news program is any program, whether or not the program is presenter-based and whether or not the program is provided by a third party, containing any news, intelligence, report of occurrence or matter of public interest about any social, economic, political, cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific or any other aspect of Singapore in any language, whether paid or free or whether at regular interval or otherwise, but does not include any program produced by or on behalf of the government. After they released this statement, there was a blogger who posted on his Facebook. The blogger said, "Simi sai ma ai license." And this is exactly it, because under this definition of news, everything in Singapore is news. And therefore, if they define and say that, sorry, hello friend, you just reported news, okay, you fall under the regulation. If you report the SMRT got cockroach, that is also news. Okay? If you report somebody hugging in a park, that is also news because it happened in Singapore. And this is the definition, okay? All in one sentence. Let me read it to you again because I find it really funny. A Singapore news program is any program, whether or not the program is presenter-based and whether or not the program is provided by a third party, containing any news, intelligence, report of occurrence or any matter of public interest about any social, economic, political, cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific or any other aspect of Singapore in any language, whether paid or free and whether at regular interval or otherwise, but does not include any program produced by or on behalf of the government. Now you see why they have to put this as a footnote, because it tells you what they are really aiming for. Okay? So, for me, this is the gist of the whole thing. It's very vague, it's very broad, it's all encompassing. Ministers cannot explain it, MPs cannot explain it, they didn't consult the public. They didn't consult the online users, they didn't consult the Media Literacy Council, they didn't consult the Government Parliamentary Committee. And it is law. So, that is why we are here today. And we bloggers, we are not mad people. You read us, you read our articles, you read our reports. We're actually quite sane people. In fact, a lot of them are here today wearing black. You can go and talk to them. We are not stupid, we are not irrational. But this piece of regulations simply is stupid. So to get the ball rolling, thank you. I will call now upon the first speaker. We have 12 speakers today, and each speaker will speak for 12 minutes. The first speaker for today is my good friend Ravi Philemon. He was formerly the chief editor of The Online Citizen. He writes on his own blog now called raviphilemon.net. He's a social worker, a big man with a very big heart. Please give a hand to Ravi Philemon.
this afternoon. I think the weather is just nice to keep calm and keep protesting, right? Well, first let me say a few words in Tamil, because we want to be as inclusive as possible. வணக்கம் நண்பர்களே. ஜூன் 1ஆம் தேதி சிங்கப்பூர் குறித்த செய்திகள் பற்றி எழுதும் இணையதளங்கள் உரிமம் பெற வேண்டும் என்று ஊடக வளர்ச்சி ஆணையம் அறிவித்துள்ளது. இதன் மூலம் சிங்கப்பூர் பற்றி கணிசமாக எழுதும் எந்த இணையதளமும் உரிமம் பெற வேண்டும். ஆனால் கணிசம் என்றால் ஊடக வளர்ச்சி ஆணையத்தின் அகராதியில் மிக குறைவான என்று அர்த்தம் போலும். ஒரு வாரத்திற்கு சிங்கப்பூர் குறித்து ஒரு பதிவு நீங்கள் இணையத்தில் செய்தால் அது அதிகமாக கருதப்படும். 50,000 தனிப்பட்ட இணைய நெறிமுறை முகவரி 50,000 யூனிக் ஐபி அட்ரஸ் உங்கள் இணையதளத்தை பார்வையிட்டால் அது அதிகமாக கருதப்படும். இவை இணையதள எழுத்துக்களை கட்டுப்படுத்துவதற்கு இல்லை என்று ஊடக வளர்ச்சி ஆணையம் தெரிவித்துள்ளது. அப்படி என்றால் ஏன் இந்த வாரியத்தின் விதிகளும் கட்டுப்பாடுகளும் இவ்வளவு அகலமாக எழுதப்பட்டுள்ளன? அரசாங்கத்திற்கு இவ்வளவு அதிகாரம் தேவையில்லை. இந்த புதிய வரிமுறைகளுக்கு கட்டுப்பாடுகளுக்கும் சிங்கப்பூரர்களின் சுதந்திர வெளிப்பாட்டை கட்டுப்படுத்தக்கூடியவை என்பதால் இந்த புதிய உத்தரவு ரத்து செய்யப்பட வேண்டும். என் இணையத்தை விடுவி. I think we have to be fair to this PAP government. So to be fair, let us look at the reason why they say this regulation is needed. NDA has said that they want to bring the online news sites to be on par with the traditional media. We have asked if you want parity. Why don't you free up the traditional media? Right. No, they have said we are ranked at 149th in the world press freedom. They probably have to ensure that we stay right there in the high hundreds with countries like Afghanistan and Iraq. Anyway, Minister for Information and Communications, Dr. Yaakob Ibrahim, has actually pointed us to New Zealand to say why deregulating the internet is not a real option. Never mind that New Zealand is at number 8 at World Press Freedom ranking. And also never mind that the fact that New Zealand laws does not actually compel any websites or blogs to be subjected to regulation. NDA has also said that these new regulations have been introduced because it feels that more clarity should be given where Singapore news program is concerned, because their content is used by others to make informed decisions or to make judgments on matters of national interest. Sounds fair, right? But then they go on and define what all are considered to be Singapore news program. And Andrew has specified what they consider to be news program. But I'll say it again. And according to MDA, this is what a Singapore news program is. I quote, "A Singapore news program is any program, whether or not the program is presenter-based and whether or not the program is provided by a third party, containing any news, intelligence, report of occurrence, or any matter of public interest about any social, economic, political, cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, or any other aspect of Singapore in any language, whether paid or free, and whether at regular intervals or otherwise, but does not include any program produced by or on behalf of the government." So anything can be news as long as it's not from the government. Like that, anything can be news one. People sit on the floor in the crowded MRT. Someone shits outside the MRT station. Also can be Singapore news program. I think that is why the MDA included Stomp. Remember the Stomp report about train leaving MRT station with one set of doors open? And who has this unfettered power to declare someone an online site? MDA. Not an independent body. An NDA, because they are a regulatory body of civil servants, they won't further the interests of a certain political party, right? Before you answer yes or no, let's remember that in July 2010, Martin C., a filmmaker, received notification from NDA that a video recorded containing Dr. Lim Hock Siew speech at a book launch is banned. Dr. Lim Hock Siew's speech at the book launch is banned because the MDA said so. Dr. Lim was a medical practitioner, and and more importantly, he was a political prisoner in Singapore for 20 years. And the NDA said that Martin's video, quote, gives a distorted and misleading portrayal, unquote, of past events. A regulatory body of civil servants are not capable of siding with a certain political party, right? That's why the Aljunied Hougang Punggol East Town Council is now accusing the National Environment Agency of being politically motivated to tarnish the image of that town council. There is absolutely no political motivation at all. Well, at least that's what the PAP government wants us to believe. Which is why besides the site owned by MediaCorp, which by the way is wholly owned by Temasek Holdings, and SPH, where the PAP has planted government monitors to ensure that its papers say the right thing, the only other site affected now by this regulation is Yahoo, an international site which the PAP government has got no control over. The PAP has always been afraid of the foreign media. In 2001, in passing law that allows punishment of foreign news broadcasters deemed to be engaging in the domestic politics of Singapore, the then information minister said that the PAP government needed to ensure that foreign broadcasters don't stray or try to be funny in reporting Singapore development. Singapore's politics are for ourselves alone to decide, not for foreigners to come in and tell us what to do, they said. The funny thing is, they never defined what engaging in domestic politics of Singapore actually meant. No, we don't want foreign media to meddle in domestic politics. But what does meddling in domestic politics actually mean? Can you at least define that and not try and assert so much power for yourself to decide what is meddling in domestic politics and what is not? And no, the protest today is not for Yahoo, a foreign media company. We know that Yahoo is a big company which probably can afford the $50,000 that this new regulation demands. This protest is for us. Because of this new regulation that gives the government so much power to arbitrarily decide, using don't know what kind of traffic monitoring tools and perception-based surveys, nobody, maybe not even God, knows what these tools are. Which site is the online news site and which site is not? TOC has already said that they have more than 50,000 unique visitors a month, and they write more than one article per week on Singapore's news and current affairs over a period of 2 months. I'm sure that TRE more than meets these numbers as well. And Tan Chuan Jin, who sat in for the information minister at Talking Point, recently said that if a blog aims to report news regularly, then it can be considered a news site. This is worrying for Singapore, because once you're gauged to be a news site you will have to even moderate your readers' comments properly. If not, you stand to lose the $50,000. The government wants us to trust them that they will not misuse this power. But when they have chosen not to trust us, why should we trust them? This is the government which has not ruled out a nuclear power plant for Singapore. This is a government which has not said in clear terms that we will not have 7 million people in Singapore in 2030. Should we trust them? I think Singaporeans don't mind if the mother of MDA's CEO gives her daughter an option to purchase a $10 million condo. After all, $10 million can be quite cheap to some hardworking people. But MDA should take its hands off the online world, because the online world is the most open public square Singaporeans have right now, and this new regulation gives MDA unlimited power to act arbitrarily against the interests of Singaporeans. I believe I speak for the majority of Singaporeans, and I say, resign the gazetting requiring online news sites to be gazetted. Free my internet. Thank you.